And we're back with an all-new episode of Keep It. I'm Ira Madison III, and unfortunately, I lost last night.
Oh, you did? To who? And also, where were you? Because it wasn't maybe the Oscars.
Oh, the Oscars weren't last night?
No.
Well, let me tell you something. I was in a room with Rami Malek, and he said, "This is my award," and then he hit me.
Oh, my God. It's nice to know he's around and not just 11th Bill than Oppenheimer or whatever he was.
Someone tweeted, imagine you're Bradley Cooper and you lose, and your film loses an Oscar twice to a Rami Malek film.
Oh, my God. He's writing that in the Leonard Bernstein diary he still keeps. I'm Louis Vertel. I am wearing gray, which you can't see on a podcast. It's not a visual medium. You might be watching us on YouTube. But I am, of course, in mourning because I was backstage at the Oscars, which I was part of the writing staff for, and then suddenly it was over. It's just after months and months. I mean, literally, Oscar season is twice what we now consider Christmas season. And once it's over, it's just, wow, I guess I go back into not watching movies for a while or doing anything. So it's sort of like I don't know who I am at the moment. And I'm also sleep deprived because I saw Madonna for the second time this week last night too. So forgive me for being on my last strand of adrenaline as we zoom into this episode. But I'm thrilled to talk about the Oscars.
Well, the Oscars aren't over on my Instagram feed.
No, absolutely. And I'm not helping.
Let me tell you that.
I'm posting pictures with everybody I've ever met. Just, staffers on Kimmel whose name I'm not sure about. They're on Maine now.
It's always nice when we see you in a suit. So.
Oh, sure. No, I love feeling like fancy first grader getting communion. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so before we get into the Oscars, though, you obviously were writing for the ceremony, but
Correct.
You're backstage. You're there. Did you have any fun interactions with people that you adore?
Well, I have to say, I'm almost taking it for granted at this point, the running into Diane Warren. Because, first of all, she's after you. I know. In 2019 and in 2020, I hosted, on behalf of the Academy, I was their red carpet correspondent on the carpet. And there, of course, Diane Warren was nominated both those years. Last year when I was writing and was walking around backstage, Diane Warren, there she is, telling me she is going to shit herself. She's so nervous about performing the song Applause last year. And then this year, her song from that Cheetos movie, The Fire Inside, that Becky G performed at the ceremony, she was walking around before, and I'm like, I know we tend to nominate her every year, but it is just rare to run into someone that kooky and strange and all the time, like she's just your neighbor. And so I'm already mourning that she's just not around. You know, she's like the ghost of the Dolby at this point.
I mean, you'll see her next year.
Yeah, right.
I won't say who, but someone recently told me. They said, "Listen, you know what Diane does. She is looking through the trades, calling up people as soon as movies are announced, and she's like, I'll make a song for your film." So she will be at the Oscars next year. She will be there every year.
She's circling things in the classified with a heart, like Desperately Seeking Susan. Yeah.
Can you imagine getting the call from Diane every year?
Right.
You know, because there's people she's called up to, and they're like, Scorsese's like, Diane, I don't need a movie. I don't need a song for this movie.
We just spoke with the Osage, and they're not interested at this point.
She's like, I've been working on my drumming.
You know, she would have some feather jewelry ready to go. At this particular Oscars for The Fire Inside, she had giant flames on her lapels. Anyway, there's lots to talk about at the Oscars. But, okay, to begin, the awards rollout, I mean, I don't think there was, technically speaking, a true surprise other than Poor Things picking up more technical awards than maybe some people may have guessed. Maybe some people thought Barbie would pick up more of those. But even so, like, I'm happy with who went home with everything. Like, I would have picked Paul Giamatti over Cillian Murphy, for example. I would have picked Sandra Hüller over Emma Stone, ultimate. But, like, I feel like all the winners are good additions to the histories of those categories. Like, thinking of, like, Emma Stone in Poor Things, there are just not many bizarre performances in the Best Actress canon. You know, I kind of think of, like, maybe Kathy Bates in Misery, where she gets to be a villain as well as reveal strange parts of her obsession as the movie goes on, but really it's a category that we have historically devoted to relatableness, and this character, even though she's learning the sort of basic id components of life as she turns into a sentient thing, it's a weird performance. I can't compare it to anything else that's won in the category.
I mean, I find hooking and reading very relatable.
The two oldest professions. You are a double major, shall we say? Yeah.
And trying to escape Christopher Abbott.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm constantly escaping him.
I loved him in the movie, by the way. I feel like he's not discussed
amazing
in that film, and he comes in the last fifth of it or so. But
he's actually had a very big year, I feel like, in between that, and then he also was in that play with Aubrey Plaza, the John Patrick Shanley play. Just People Be Talking. Those are his plays.
Right.
He has a play right now called The Laundromat, which is about people at the laundry mat.
Not the Steven Soderbergh movie of the same name. Okay.
No. Remember that?
Right. No, and then we were like, Sharon Stone and Meryl Streep, we're just throwing them together now. I didn't even know that was legal. By the way, speaking of things I want clarifications about, I totally did not know that the Mary McDonnell of Dances with Wolves was on that fucking major crime show you were talking about. I just totally messed that up. A rare
and the closer.
I know that. I'm sorry to this Mary McDonnell. I am passionate about her and the movie Passion Fish, starring Mary McDonnell.
Thank you for apologizing, because I felt gaslit.
1944 Best Actress, Ingrid Bergman. I'm back to my old self. Great.
All right, so we are going to get into the entire Oscar ceremony from start to finish, but also we are delighted to have the wonderful Martha Plimpton here to join us this week.
She is on the Kate Winslet show, The Regime, on HBO. Also, one of my favorite celebrities. One of those people where you don't know what she'll be cast to do in any given project. She's usually part of a terrific ensemble, which is a thing we get into with her. But you're just so grateful to see her. It's like, oh, fuck yes, that person who I know is real and delivers something authentically human every single time. I just watched fucking Running on Empty recently. She's amazing in that. She brings up Parenthood, another great performance. Anyway, we get into all of it.
I shot Andy Warhol for the first time, a movie of hers from the mid-'90s, and she has I don't know if you've seen her hit a red carpet in the past few years or something, and you see Martha in sort of a funky, almost faux mohawk, really sort of chic, X-Men sort of look. She should be in an X-Men movie, by the way. That sort of look. She has that haircut in I Shot Andy Warhol, so it's funny to see that it's sort of a throwback to a hairstyle she had in the mid-'90s.
Yeah, she really, there's also just a resting sort of sarcasm
cool to
and
her.
The quality that can only come from, the best of Gen X.
Yeah, so we have a lovely chat with her coming up in this episode too. We will be right back with more Keep It. All right, let's get into the actual ceremony. Louis, first of all, you wrote for the show.
I know. How brave of me.
Everyone I know was trying to guess which joke is a Louis joke, which joke is a Louis joke, etc. I feel like I pinpointed one of them.
Go ahead.
The Gerard Depardieu joke was definitely you. Someone was definitely like, we need a French actor.
I can confirm that you are correct. That actually wasn't me, Joe. Honestly, Molly McMurney, who is the executive producer of the Oscars, head writer at Kimmel, and also Jimmy Kimmel's wife, she actually just told us all, if you guys talk about the show, stop claiming you wrote certain parts of it or other people didn't write parts or whatever, because it's not about being territorial, obviously. We're all in this together. And it's literally the entire staff of Kimmel. So it's a familial thing or whatever. That said, I'm particularly proud of writing the Gerard Depardieu joke, which was Jimmy was addressing Messi, the dog from Anatomy of a Fall, in the audience. And he said, God, the last French actor to eat his own vomit on set was Gerard Depardieu, I believe. Something like that. Not the exact wording. First of all, it's such a pleasure to roast the risibly horrible Gerard Depardieu. Hope he burns in hell. Secondly, But it was one of the final meetings before the Oscars where we were all sitting around going over the initial versions of the script. And somebody said the words French actor, as you said, which of course sent me into Wiki Brain, which sent me to that joke. And it's just rare that you actually just voice something out loud and it becomes something that somebody has to write down and it goes into the show. You know, most of the time I'm slaving over a document, like typing and backspacing and typing again. So that was a pleasurably SNL-esque addition to the show. I imagine that's how that show works, you know.
Yeah, Louis from Temecula.
That's me. Yeah.
I will actually say that more so than I've seen any Gerard Depardieu films or even heard about him being a monster, which I feel like happened later in our lives. Like as an adult, I learned this. I just feel like I knew that name and heard it constantly from studying French in school. For some reason, Gerard Depardieu his name is in textbooks when you're learning French as a American student learning French in like middle school or high school. Like I heard the name constantly.
There is like a rule that we only get new French celebrities every 5 or 6 years or so. You know, it's like, oh, it's the mid 2000s. Here comes Marion Cotillard. You know,
Does Timothy
replacing? If we pronounced it correctly, but we don't. So I think he's dropping that. You know, he's doing a Louis Vertel. He's saying it however he wants to say it.
Remember the period where Bradley Cooper used to speak French in interviews?
Yes.
He used to, and honestly, this was a precursor to the Bradley Cooper that we have now to talk about the Oscar ceremony and the maestro of it all. When he was in Alias, when he was in the Hangover, those movies, there were always sort of viral moments where Bradley Cooper is speaking French in an interview. He's worldly, you know. He's more than the film that he's in, you know. Like this is someone to really pay attention to. And now we've arrived at the Bradley Cooper that we have in culture right now, and we should have seen the signs
that he would do the. I'm the full of soul megalomaniac. I'm not a regular megalomaniac.
And Maestro went home with nothing.
Quite a few things went home with nothing. Killers of the Flower Moon went home with nothing, which is Scorsese's third movie to get 10 nominations and no wins. Remember the movie The Irishman? You don't have to remember because it's still playing wherever you first saw it. So go back to it. You're almost halfway through.
What's the third one?
Gangs of New York, which I'm sorry to report to you, as this is your favorite Scorsese. You've only said it hundreds of times. And I know you're trying to get in with Marty, but...
I should be trying to get in with Francesca, to be honest, on TikTok. Invite her to lunch or something. Of course, I've mentioned that that's my favorite Scorsese on this podcast before. Also, other side note, Juan Ramirez, who's been on the show before, says that for some reason, he was going down a rabbit hole of listening to previous Keep It episodes. And
Dangerous.
I said, we've done this show for 6 years. So what are we talking about? And he's like, well, for one thing, you've ranked the Scream movies 17 times.
we're almost at the permanent rankings. Almost.
And I feel
Art
like
is fluid.
We've had many conversations on this show that have probably just repeated themselves, especially around award season. So I'm sorry. Or if you're a person who enjoys that, here we go again.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry. We've been talking for 6 straight years. Dementia is going to enter the picture soon. That's just the way it is. But talking about the other acting wins category, obviously everybody knew Da'Vine Joy Randolph was going to win. But I have to tell you, since I'm writing for the show, I'm stressed about the monologue, when Jimmy's going to get back on stage and get back to making jokes. When they got to the 5 actresses presenting to the 5 nominees, which they had done before, more than a decade ago, you underestimate reading the copy, like that it's going to be affecting or that how it's going to play, really. Because it started with Mary Steenburgen presenting the nomination to Emily Blunt, which was pleasurable. And also, they're sort of kind of like the same to me, like a pleasure to see. They're in a lot of stuff. They're always up to something different. And you just love them.
What was Mary Steenburgen? What was her win for?
A movie called Melvin and Howard from 1980, which was directed by Jonathan Demme.
Okay, that photo, she was Latina fishing. When they dropped the 5 actresses, everyone in the room I was with we were looking at that photo, and I was like, who the fuck is about to come out?
Yeah.
And then she came out, and I was like, Mary Steenburgen? When did that happen?
And also, she was, of course, wearing the same dress she wore when she won, too, which is more than 40 years ago. That was pretty cool to see, too. Worn differently, which a very Project Runway day to evening sort of transformation.
She had to get the Cholula out of it, too.
Ted Danson. Yes. Yeah. But when Davine Joy Randolph was sitting there, hearing just this sort of fabulous introduction to her character, and also to the fact that she was wearing her grandmother's glasses in the movie The Holdovers, which was brought up, and she's like, and I think the line was, it was so nice to see the movie through her lens and yours. Mm-hmm. You saw an entire season's worth of buildup just boil over. Like, this is somebody who I think, how overwhelming that must be to get all this praise for a performance, all this praise for, a really well-regarded movie, but it just, I think after a while, it's not just relentless, it's an accumulation. And it was nice to see that moment where she really got to take it all in. It's sort of a rare television moment where you saw all of something hit someone. I think most of the time when somebody's about to win an Oscar or go up on stage, it's they're in the surreal portion. They're like, I'm just looking at a bunch of people and I'm feeling weird about it, but you in that moment really got to see her take it in. And I thought that was just so fabulous.
Yeah, with her stolen script. I'm kidding.
Yeah. That is a weird story to come out a day before the Oscar came out. It'd be one thing if the person accusing the Holdovers screenwriter, Alexander Payne, I guess, of ripping off these other works, but it's like a really well-known screenwriter who wrote things like Luca.
Luca. That's
which
the movie
I
about
loved.
the movie about that sweet little gay fish.
Yeah. But there's no queer component to it. Don't ask they're like, it's all accidental.
So we know he's a liar.
Right. There it is. All right. We solved that.
I will say that controversy, and I don't know if it's going to go anywhere else, by the way, but the night before the Oscars, I'm out at a party and someone is asking me, oh, the Holdovers, this whole thing with like the blacklist and like the plagiarism. And I truly was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And they pulled it up on their phone, and I said, and then I'm like sitting in a corner for 30 minutes, like scrolling through this. It's like I've just discovered this.
There's this whole manifesto about how the Holdovers script is lifted from this earlier blacklist script that was never produced called Frisco, and if the author of this claim meant to make it clear, he did not do it, because he kept being like, well, every instance of this phrase is this phrase in the Holdovers. And if there's lists and lists and lists of these things, I'm like, well, then it's a different script. It's more like the closest thing he's come to like a slam dunk claim is that some of the scene setups seem very similar. But
well, if the creators of Splash are going to shoot The Shape of Water for ripping off that movie.
Fishfucker 1 and 2, as I call them.
Welcome to Hollywood, baby.
Right.
Anyway, Davine won, and that was beautiful. And then we got Robert Downey Jr. winning, which, you know what? One, I didn't need to see men on stage do it. I didn't need to see 5 men walk out and talk about other men.
It's confusing when we give them men awards. What are they going to do with them?
That was for the actresses, okay?
Yeah.
But it was nice to see Robert win. I like Robert Downey Jr. This is the thing about his win for Oppenheimer. I liked his role in the film. It wasn't maybe the role that I would have given the Oscar to. I probably would have given it to Ryan Gosling, to be honest. For Barbie,
I would have given it to Robert De Niro. I thought he was the best supporting performance of the year.
I mean, that was chilling.
Yeah.
His role was chilling in that movie. But I like Robert Downey Jr. He's so likable, and he's been fun the entire award season. So I don't begrudge the win. And I also think, as you were talking before, adding to the history of the category, it's nice to see Robert Downey Jr. with a trophy.
Totally. I will say, I do think some people suffer during an award season. They give all these speeches, and someone like Robert Downey Jr., I think, benefits from when it's like a lower stakes award he wins. He loves going up there and sort of making a ton of jokes, keeping it super lighthearted, bringing up things from his very well-known past. And I think in a way, like, he gives all these anecdotes away. And then by the time you get to the final award, the Oscar, there wasn't as much left. He had some sincere moments in the speech, but this thing happens sometimes where when you give enough speeches, I think you end up plateauing and maybe even going down a little bit by the time the biggest award comes. I call this Christoph Waltz syndrome. Watch all of his speeches leading up to the Inglourious Basterds win, and then the final one, it's like pretension took over or something, and he made some weird allusion to how we're all on a continent. I didn't understand it. But
also, when he came out, I was like, where you been, baby?
You know my theory about him.
Wait for Tarantino to make another movie.
Yeah, I believe a force named Michael Shannon came by and took all those roles. He's like, I'm tall and menacing too, and I'll do a weird voice.
Is Christoph Waltz tall?
I don't know. I just know that he, this is a bizarre Louis Vertel factoid. When I first moved here, I worked for this company, and they threw this award show where they needed someone to write the patter for people introducing other people. Christoph Waltz came to deliver an award to somebody, and I had to write that. Okay, so I'm like, 21 years old, 22 years old, sitting in bed with literal goldfish, the giant carton you put your hand in that's like from Costco, and it should be illegal. I get a call from an unknown number, and suddenly I pick it up. It is a German man on the line talking about, he goes, Louis, I am liking the script so far, but I didn't know what was happening. Somebody had given him my number. I'm a child. I'm a child in bed listening to Christoph Waltz talk about whatever. He has such a German kind of literal quality. Like he gets into the intricacies of words, and like it always looks to me like he's about to say the word a spider. Always, every single time. And I thought it was kind of novel to have him give the speech to Ryan Gosling for Barbie, just because it's a cuckoo nomination. He's sort of a cuckoo guy. So to pair them together felt really funny ultimately. And you could see the puzzlement on Ryan Gosling's face too, which I thought was rewarding.
I know. Also, Ryan Gosling just feels like he and Christoph should be in the same sort of universe in a film. Yeah, I don't. The Fall Guy weirdly feels Tarantino-esque. We haven't even seen this fucking movie, and we've been hearing so much about it. By the way, do you know that Spielberg also loves this movie, which is coming out? There was an interview where Ryan Gosling said that Spielberg came up to me. I thought he was going to talk to somebody else, but he came up to me. He's like, I love The Fall Guy. I'm like, great. When is this movie coming out?
Yeah, right. I assume we're getting it sooner than later. But before we move on, should we talk about the I'm Just Ken performance? Did it live up to the expectation for you?
I had fun watching it. I loved the Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend reference.
Ding dang.
Yes.
Gentlemen prefer blondes to the gods. Yes.
Yes. That was a beautiful sort of nod. Everybody was having a good time. I will unfortunately say that I was in the restroom when it came on. And then it was ending
Christine
when I came back. So I had to rewatch it later. And I was upset because it was the only performance I was looking forward to. Sorry, Becky G. And I was disappointed to have missed the beginning of it. I feel like maybe I missed some of the magic by not seeing it happen organically and just watching it later on YouTube.
I will say, being there, it was so shocking the amount of people in the performance. Like, so going backstage to like
Slash?
sit where, and Slash appeared wearing his Amy Sherman Palladino best top hat. But there were so many people, and also, by the way, they were all kind of short, which did not read on television. But you just saw all these fucking Kens lined up, and it's like when you are keeping an eye on the extra people in the Madonna tour. It's like, wow, just a history of Grindr is here. Look at all of these people. The Olympics of not tapping me back. Yeah.
But I thought the performance was fun, and I'm glad that Ryan got to have his moment, and the jokes in the beginning as well about Greta, Margot. I thought that they were fun. Jimmy got to it and then moved on. Yes.
Oh, well, I'm going to allow you to expound. What did you think of the monologue? And don't worry, I'm not easily shatterable.
I thought the monologue was fun, actually. Yeah. I thought it was a really good monologue. I always love Jimmy's monologues, to be honest. And I thought that, I will say, the opening of the show felt a little bit long.
Which, the monologue?
Just the monologue and the stuff before it. I was late getting to the screening of it. And when I arrived at the screening of the Oscars and I was like, oh, we're still not even into the monologue yet. You know, I felt like the setup.
What happened because it started late. Yes, which is because there were protesters there who, like, certain cars couldn't get into where they needed to get into. And I think that's like the first time that's ever happened. The Oscars starting 5 minutes later than they were supposed to.
And then Amy Schumer ran them over. So that she made a clear path.
And we could do the Oscars.
Sarah Silverman was in the car with her. You know, that's why she wasn't there with the Maestro cast.
Got it. One more note about Jimmy. I was surprised at the end of the show. So Trump tweeted that he hated the show or hated Jimmy, which was somewhat expected.
Okay, so this was real.
Yes, it was real. It's from his which I didn't know. Jimmy commanded us to come up with jokes about it, and I was sort of like, God, do we even want to bring this up? Like, who cares, etc. Mm-hmm. But I underestimated that he would read the tweet and then make the audience, quote unquote, guess who it was. That I think was really funny, and like I was flattered to hear a lot of people be complimentary about that part of the show. But then I forgot that people don't understand. He does this every night of his life. Like every night, there was like a spontaneous thing that he, in the 11th hour, will have to respond to. And it was cool that
he's
on
Emily
scale, the Oscars.
Okay?
Yeah.
Trump likes to watch.
Yes. Right. Good Lord. It is weird to think of him like sitting. Critic. Yeah. No, sincere. He's not different from Rex Reed. He's like Rex Reed. You know, like, I'm upset about this fucking thing. And, I saw it. And that's all I have to say about it.
I mean, when you think about Trump before the politics of it all, his most infamous tweets were about Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart. He'd say, leave her, Robert. You know, she's a cheater, etc. I'm like, you were an old man loser sitting at home. He's Wendy Williams in that documentary, to be honest, just reading the papers, scrolling through the tabloids, looking for things to tweet. But he didn't even have a talk show at that point. You know, he was just tweeting constantly, and now he still does it. It's like, sir, you are ostensibly running for president, and you're watching the Oscars, bashing Jimmy Kimmel, not even on X, Twitter, whatever it is. I left finally, thank God. You're tweeting from Truth Social.
Yeah, right. Which is two of my favorite words to associate with him. Not a lying antisocial person at all. Certainly. Anyway, back to the Oscars. I'm sorry to go down that path.
No, I'm happy to know that was actually real, because as Jimmy was reading it in the room, I thought, maybe his mind's really gone at this point. You want to talk about, Joe Biden's brain? Let's talk about Trump's brain. As I was hearing it, it sounded almost like a parody of Trump tweeting, to be honest. I was like, is this really him? Or is this just a joke? So now I know it was real.
No, I mean, LOL. Yes, it was definitely real. You know what I will say? So that was at the end of the show. Something that is always a little disappointing at the Oscars is the Best Picture speech. I think a couple things are at play here. One, the night is already over. So we've seen the big award. There's nothing really to say about it. Obviously, there are only a few occasions on which Best Picture really is a surprise. Something like Parasite, brilliantly announced by Jane Fonda, of course. Yeah. But in the case of
La
this...
La Land.
Right. Well, yes. If there's a fiasco, that's a different story. But here, like... There just at this point was nothing left to say about Oppenheimer. You know what I mean? It's like, we gathered what was great about it. You'd be an idiot not to notice the technical perfection of it, the wonderful multiple performances we've awarded with Oscars already. But I was charmed to see Cillian Murphy later on Madonna's Instagram at her Oscars party that she insisted on throwing during her stay in LA. And she does
it every year.
She called him her favorite actor. What the hell? What movies is she into these days? This is somebody who used to be obsessed with like TCM type things, like can't stop bringing up the movie Breathless or, like smoky, torrid romances of yore. And she's a Cillian Murphy stan. I'm wondering how this happened for her. Maybe just Oppenheimer?
Now she loves Red Eye.
You think so?
Come on, Red Eye is that girl. Okay. Also, Red Eye, I think that movie came out on my birthday, the year that it came out. I fully remember seeing it with my grandmother on my birthday. So that's a Cillian Murphy classic. I feel like she loves that movie. Also, we'll never see him again because she locked him in the basement.
At this particular party, Madonna was wearing a sign around her neck that said, "Leave me alone, I'm tired," which I do have to say, and I guess we'll get into this when I get into my keep it. I'm always so relieved when she is funny sometimes. You just don't always get it anymore. She used to be like the Groucho Marx of pop stars. We don't really get that anymore.
Yeah, but she throws that party every year,
right?
I believe. So it was nice to see. I was scared for a second when I was scrolling through Madonna's Instagram of photos for the party, because it's really only, I don't think there are that many cameras and things there. That's sort of the point of that party, sort of like when Beyonce and Jay-Z throw their party too. But you're just scrolling through it, and then all of a sudden there's just Cillian Murphy next to her with the sign, and I was wondering if she kidnapped this man. But getting back to Best Picture, I will say, to comment on what you were saying about, why the speech is never that interesting too, is that one, when Best Picture wins, all the other producers sort of come up, and the people who worked on the film, especially like these Hollywood people who produced it, they never seem to have it in their minds to try and come up with an interesting speech or any sort of fun story to say. It's always just people come up and they're either talking about the process, or they're talking about working with Nolan, or they're just rattling off names of other people in the industry who, have worked on the film. And it's just, it doesn't feel emotional to me. There's no big hook that happens with Best Picture, to be honest. And I don't know if it's a problem to fix with the award ceremony, but I don't know. If you're a producer, at least come up and give us something,
You're right. I think it's like one of the least emotional points of the evening, weirdly. And there was that year, of course, where they tried putting Best Actor last because they thought Chadwick Boseman was going to take it. And they were banking on an emotional moment closing the show, and they flopped. So maybe that scared people off that too.
I will say, though, that Best Picture was fun, if only because what the fuck was Al Pacino doing?
Well, okay, I have lots of questions about
Sounding like Christopher Walken, for one. If my eyes were closed, I would have thought it was Christopher Walken. Two, everyone in that room was probably wondering, is this another fiasco like La La Land beating Moonlight again? Because he just walked up to that podium and said, "Oppenheimer." I was like, are we gonna mention the nominees one more time? Like, are we gonna do the whole sturm and drag? It was really just Oppenheimer, and I was wondering what is happening.
Right. Well, I think that was like the best song, where because we had been introduced to them before, there was no plan to restate the nominees. That said, the I'll say the speed and the tone which he took on was giving a little bit Elizabeth Taylor announcing Gladiator, a little bit of that. But it's weird, like people are sort of accusing him of like being a little disoriented, but honestly, this man is still performing Richard III like at a school in the Valley for the hell of it. Like he's very like aware of how to be captivating on stage, etc. And also his direct quote was, "My eyes see Oppenheimer." My favorite Zora Neale Hurston title. Okay, so now let's get into the Billie Eilish of it. She is the youngest person to have 2 Oscars ever. She is 7 years old. How do you feel about that?
I fucking love Billie Eilish. She is, to steal a word from you, just rad, to be honest. I rode an elevator with her at the Met Gala last year, and she and Phineas are there at the elevator, and she's just talking, hanging out, chilling around, talking to people in the elevator, saying hi. I'm just like, this is just a cool girl. And she sort of feels authentically herself. And it's just so fun watching them come up on stage. And first of all, embracing Ariana and Cynthia Erivo. Like, they were both excited for Billie to be winning as well. And she looked great. The performance was great. I'm always happy to see Billie at an award show, to be honest. I'm always happy to see a performance. I'm always happy to see her win. I love her.
You're right. There is like just a strange calm about her. Like she's like done all of the mental math you have to do to like make yourself feel uncrazy in a giant around being a part of a monoculture when you just have been like springboarded to fame like seconds ago.
If you told me she was that bitch from Orphan who's secretly 60 years old,
yeah,
but looks younger, because she seems so wise
yes,
beyond her
right.
years.
No, I truly love her, and it's cool to have somebody that young with two Oscars. To say nothing of Emma Stone, who now has 2 Oscars.
Yes.
It was slightly painful though to watch Annette Bening lose again. This is now her 5th nomination. I appreciate that she was dressed in sort of a Shogun-esque robe, because that's the layer of like gravitas she's bringing to an award show. You know, she's like, I'm married to Warren. I've seen it all.
Yeah, with the sunglasses on as well.
Right.
She looked hot. I love Annette Bening. She will probably get a Lifetime Achievement Oscar at this point because they keep playing in her face.
Yeah, precisely.
And she should have won for 20th Century Women.
I did this whole snubs video for Keep It. You can see it on our YouTube channel, but I get into that and Amy Adams and Arrival the same year. Painful situation. But also, by the way, I'm happy for Emma Stone. As I said, I think that's a qualified win or whatever. Lily Gladstone has been the speechifying star of award season this year, and I don't know what we can do with her now in terms of speeches for the next couple months just to satisfy that urge I have to watch her be the word of the year, rad. But I hope we get that. I hope, as like Emma Stone, I hope we see her again and again. She really has like a pull on the screen. Lily Gladstone.
She does.
You know, you are in her. There's a gestalt to Lily Gladstone when she's on the screen.
There's an interview that she has with Kate Blanchett. You should search for it. I don't remember what it was on. I saw it on Instagram in the reels. You know, once one of those reels is gone, you can't get back to it.
No, right. It's rude to ask, actually. They're disappeared into the ether.
But she has an interview with Kate Blanchett where they're talking about acting and the process, etc. And the way that Lily talks about sort of being on screen and the way that, you know, just sort of like commanding the attention of the camera while, you know, being a part of sort of a large tapestry of what's going on. She sounds like a director when she's talking. And so I'm really excited to see what else she does on screen, but I'm also really excited to see her possibly behind the camera giving us so much more. I mean, there's so much that's going to happen in Lily Gladstone's career, I feel. You know, I don't think that this is an actor who is going to, you know, fall by the wayside after this big moment. You know, I don't see her in Catwoman.
Right. We should establish that you should see certain women with Lily Gladstone if you haven't. Probably her most awesome role up to this point. I've not seen that movie she talked about, Fancy Dance, that came out this year too. That's probably
it only recently got distribution, so I believe that will be coming to a theater near you soon.
So the one real stunt we had on the awards this year in terms of a skit was John Cena and a tribute to the streaker of Oscars lore, which is 50 years ago. The guy who ran naked behind David Niven. This time we had John Cena come out and pretend to be nervous about presenting naked, and he and Jimmy had a little rat-a-tat before he sort of waddled onto the stage with an envelope between his knees. I have to tell you, I have no gift for like writing physical comedy. I think we can thank my co-writers Greg Martin and Jesse McLaren for the majority of this thing. It was like a triumph start to finish. I was like, John Cena is absolutely perfect for this because one, he's in a Best Picture nominee. He's in Barbie. But two, he's sort of prestige adjacent, right? Like he comes from wrestling. He's in these crowd pleasing roles. He's, you know, someone like The Rock. So he's huge like The Rock, like, and everybody knows who he is, but he has this relationship to quote unquote important movies that the contrivance of having to be naked at the Oscars makes sense for somebody like him. It just worked out so well. And he was clinched very last minute to do that role. We were on, they filmed us for CBS this morning last week at Kimmel for our final meetings. Ted Koppel came in and talked to us. That was fucking weird. Ted Koppel coming up to you.
You looked very serious in that. Yeah. It was, I love that. It had a very, I don't know, like 1970s documentary feel. Maybe the Ted Koppel of it all.
Yeah, right. But you can see in the footage there, Molly goes, and we still need a naked guy. Like up until the last minute, we did not have that role filled. I think a lot of people turned it down. Obviously, there's some risk to doing it. But Jesus Christ, you can learn your shapes by looking at the naked body of John Cena. I was like, shit, trapezoid, rhombus. Jesus Christ. I'd forgotten wrestlers look like that.
I mean, who needs to count sheep before bed anymore? Okay? I'm counting
Mother
John Cena
Hubbard,
body parts.
Chill out. Yeah. Little Bo Peep. They're all the same to me.
Little Jack Horner. Okay.
Yeah, right. Until Sondheim puts them all together, it's really confusing to me.
No, I mean, that was one of my favorite moments of the show, obviously. John Cena looked great. But also, I love John Cena as well. I think he is a really fun actor. I enjoy his work. And if you haven't seen Peacemaker, we didn't get to talk about it when Daniel Brooks was on the show. We had a lot of other things to discuss, but it is a sort of spinoff of Suicide Squad. And it's very funny. If you like The Boys, if you like Gen V, it's very much in that vein. And Daniel Brooks and John Cena are amazing in that show. Also, one of the best opening credit sequences on a show I've ever seen.
He also was very funny in the movie Blockers, which co-starred Ike Barinholtz. And I have not given Ike Barinholtz his props yet. This man who won the Jeopardy celebrity tournament was then invited for the first time ever in the history of the celebrity tournament to appear in the actual Tournament of Champions against people who've won the show 14 times, etc. This man beat a 13-time champion and then got to the semifinals, and had he wagered differently, would be in the finals of the Tournament of Champions. He's like, yes, a smart celebrity, and also a cool person who seems to just be like, I would run into him all the time on the picket line. Like, trivia people find each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Clowns? I don't know. Do clowns all know each other? I imagine it's like that.
That's a great classic Keep It episode. Ike was great when we interviewed him. I think he's been on twice, to be honest. And also, one of my favorite people to run into. He's so funny. Yeah. He's so sweet.
Yes, totally. So I was very gratified watching him during the Jeopardy Tournament of Champions. He absolutely belonged there.
So back to awards. Best Director was Christopher Nolan, which, of course, sort of saw that one coming. I felt a little bad for Justine Triet, but I think that she'll have a moment again at some point, maybe.
And we at least got her the screenplay Oscar, which there are a lot of contentious words in that fucking script. Really, Anatomy of a Fall is just, we talk with Martha Plimpton about how in Mass she has these great combative moments with other actors like Ann Dowd. And man, you just get all these surprising confrontations in Anatomy of a Fall. You get this tutorial in how the French legal system, quote unquote, works. A shocking movie, very rewatchable, I think, even though it's an epic film. Also, just something about the way Justine Triet walks to a stage. Like, well, I mean, I want to sing that song "Ring of Keys" from a Fun Home. Like, you're bearing. Like, I'm her lesbian admirer.
Yeah, I'm happy that she got the Oscar for screenplay. Also very happy for Cord Jefferson winning for American Fiction Best Adapted Screenplay, which was an unexpected win, I thought. But there's just a groundswell of support for Cord in the industry. You know, I've known him for years. So many other people have known him for years, from working on sitcoms as well, and then for also being a journalist before he was a TV writer. So, you know, both industries, there are a lot of people rooting for Cord Jefferson. And a wonderful speech, too, about sort of making movies that are less expensive. You know, you can make multiple films that are cheaper instead of making one big, very expensive film that maybe flops.
I love when people pick something novel to say during a speech that you can think about later. When he did that, you know, when Iowa Debris talked about like thanking your assistants, like the people who are actually the nuts and bolts of whatever we do. I have this dream of winning an award at something like, not the Oscars, but I mean, I'm not a movie star or whatever, but I'm saying something where there's a room of people who are luminaries, and I literally point different people out and tell people which movies of theirs to watch. It's like people still need orientation when it comes to these amazing stars. Like if I'm in a room with Meryl Streep and Meryl Streep's in front of me, I'm like, has anybody here seen A Cry in the Dark? Why is nobody coming up to me and just talking about A Cry in the Dark at random? This should be my life in this room while I'm with all of these famous people who allegedly care about movies. I think everybody should think of a novel angle before they go up there that isn't just thanking certain people around them who are familiar and, obvious to thank.
I thought we established you need to tell people to watch The Laundromat.
Yeah. Okay, I can get to that.
Isn't Timothée in that movie?
No.
You know what? I must have been thinking of Don't Look Up. I mean, it's David Schwimmer is in The Laundromat and Gary Oldman and Antonio Banderas. Wow, I have not seen this movie. I should be watching it.
Yeah, that is mind blowing. Which reminds me, remember the movie Let Them All Talk with Meryl Streep, Diane Wiest, Candy Bergen. Lucas Hedges, which, by the way, come back to us, Lucas Hedges, as I say every 3 episodes.
I'd like to not remember that film.
I enjoyed that movie. I thought Diane Wiest killed it.
I thought the performances were great in the movie. I didn't enjoy it that much.
It was very filmed on a real boat, and then they decided, is this a movie? Kind of. We'll put it out.
Should have been a murder. Where was Perot?
Yeah, you're right. By the way, I think the ultimate supporting wins are when it's a role that feels like it belongs in a whodunit. You want to have like a supporting win where the character has like a little bit of a gimmick. They get one-liners. There's something up with them, so you're constantly wondering about them. I'm happy for these empathetic roles like Da'Vine Joy Randolph's or historical roles like Robert Downey Jr. But really, ultimately, I want somebody who has an iconic look and seems like they might be up to no good. Like something closer to Allison Janney and I, Tonya, even though that's not the ideal example of what I'm talking about.
I will actually say that a lot of the other wins felt very appropriate. It felt appropriate that Ludwig won for score for Oppenheimer because this is like a gorgeous score. I love his music. It's appropriate that Poor Things won for costume. These are. I love that Godzilla -1 won an award. I fucking love that movie. It's one of my top movies of the year. And if you haven't
you will
seen
not expect the emotional component of that movie. It's very, very well done. An unusual movie.
And it gives very, obviously because of the time that it's set, but it gives very Hollywood 40s melodrama with some of the twists and like just the acting in it. I mean, truly that last scene in the hospital feels like it could have been like Tarnished Angels or something. Like this was Hollywood. So it's a gorgeous film, and I was glad I got to see it in theaters. It feels appropriate that the Zone of Interest won for sound.
I think that's the most interesting win of the night. As we said, it's like the sound in that movie is like its own character. So you're paying attention in a way to this is the family.
First of all, this is an overture. I finally saw the movie last week, and truly the movie starts and then it's just pitch black. And you're hearing the score, and then it happens again at the end. The movie is very sound forward. If you have not seen this movie in theaters, you must.
Yes. But also, it's pitch black at first, and you're just hearing these noises, and what that does is like changes your expectations of where to find crucial details in the movie. Like it attunes you to the decibel level of what's going on in the movie. But something I want to say about the Zone of Interest that I also think has gone underrated. Not only is it interesting how they layer in the sounds of Auschwitz way in the background so that you're not ever consciously paying attention to them, even if as the dialogue is going on and you can hear it a little bit in the background. The interesting thing to me about this movie is that the sounds don't often sound horrifying. Like the sounds sound a little bit like, and I don't mean to sound glib about this, Six Flags. Like you'll hear like a train go by, like a scream as if somebody's being moved quickly. It's just like, it could almost be mistaken for good noises or like pleasurable noises until you hear like the pop of a gun or something. But that vagueness is also extremely well realized. I can't think of another movie like this. It was my number one of last year. So please go see it. Yeah, I
love that it won. I loved Jonathan Glazer's speech. That was obviously misinterpreted by a lot of people. I couldn't believe the amount of people immediately after it being. I can't believe that you would refute your Jewishness for a film about the Holocaust. I was like, you know what? There was a whole sentence after that. Well, let's listen with our ears. Which is not what he was doing. He was talking about an occupation and rejecting that. I love the sound. I sort of love what the movie represents more than I actually loved the film. Ultimately, I mean, it took me a long time to see the film because I was just sort of dreading
it's a
having
bracing
to sit
idea.
in a theater and bracing. I thought the idea was more bracing than the sort of execution of it for me, to be honest. But
it goes subtle
it.
to the extreme. You know what I mean? Like you don't get them. I mean, like at the end, you're around people who clean Auschwitz in a twist.
Of course,
but
that was a great
leaves
ending.
It leaves you to assess the devastation afterwards. It doesn't put it all in front of you, which is just a rare choice for any movie to make, let alone a Holocaust movie.
Yeah, obviously, you're assessing the devastation that's in the film. I personally felt like the focus on, Sandra Hüller and her family, I felt like, yes, I get the point here. You're looking at the banality of evil and you're looking at people who are just sort of profiting off of it and living beside it and not really having any sort of, inclination to feel bad for what is happening. There are a lot of moments where it really sort of hits. I felt like the movie for me had a lot of ideas that were presented and then no real sort of conclusions. Not that a movie needs to have conclusions all the time, but I felt like this was particularly setting up I'm doing this for a point, and then there sort of wasn't a point.
I will say, when you're talking about the movie, it's kind of hard to get around just the phrase "the banality of evil" as the all-encompassing point. Like you kind of get it from those words. That said, I think the thing to seek out is obviously not just the sound design. It is also an acting movie. Like you're watching these people live their lives, and the way Sandra is, they live full, complete lives, like with concerns and ambitions and problems and wishes for their family and stuff, while this other thing is going on. So they have a lot to inhabit.
Of course.
So watch it for the acting as well. Obviously, Sandra's gotten a lot of heat this year for this and Anatomy of a Fall, but the whole cast is amazing.
Maybe my response is more to people commenting on reviews of the film where people are saying, well, the point of it is to learn that the Nazis weren't all cartoon villains. They were real people. And I think that, if you are a person with a fully developed adult brain of the world, you could understand that, yes, evil people are three-dimensional. And that's what makes them more evil, to be honest.
Right. Yeah, they're not focusing on the evil all the time. Is that really like that novel a point? You know what I mean?
Dr. Blight, she likes to take in a movie. She loves to take tartar in between fighting the Planeteers, okay?
Dr. Blight is always a crazy, fabulous reference. Originally voiced by Meg Ryan, if you're unfamiliar with the Captain Planet.
Yes. I want to lastly say about the awards and a response to people from our last YouTube video. We talk about the win for The Boy and the Heron. Lewis and I do not hate animated films.
Oh my God, I made a joke. I was like, I don't want to see all that. It's also just like, it's one of those things where I'm not an authority on animation. So I don't know that my insight is especially as valuable because I don't have as much to compare it to.
I mean, they sounded a little bit like the director of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, who had a lot of things to say online.
Did he?
Was Spider-Verse sitting out? Yes.
Oh, I see.
He was tweeting up a storm about not winning. But I will say about The Boy and the Heron, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show before, but Miyazaki is actually my pop culture blind spot.
I think it's
I've never seen a single.
Never
seen a single one.
You have to be like in the way that like TCM pushes you to learn about whatever the films, name an actor, Barbara Stanwyck. This, like, you basically have to be led down the path to find all these movies. They're not like utterly readily accessible to everybody.
But I promise you, there are at least two people in my life who have discovered this within the past few months and are adamant that we will be having a Miyazaki marathon this spring, this summer. So I will be seeing all of the films, and then maybe we'll finally have a Miyazaki episode.
Also, I will do the same thing. I haven't seen all of them either. So wonderful.
And then we'll have someone on as a guest co-host who sort of knows what they're talking about too. So YouTube,
they can slap us personally.
So the internet can't yell at us.
Finally.
I think we're pretty thorough with the Oscars here. So when we're back, we are joined by the fantastic Martha Plimpton. Our guest today makes us light up every time we see her on screen, from early breakthrough performances in films like The Goonies to her acclaimed stage work and iconic TV roles in the likes of Raising Hope, The Good Wife, The Real O'Neills, one of my personal favorites. She has captivated audiences with her talent, authenticity, and charisma. A Tony nominee, an Emmy winner, an activist, part of an acting dynasty, she is back with HBO's The Regime. We're beyond thrilled to welcome to Keep It the amazing Martha Plimpton.
Thank you. That was a lovely introduction.
Well,
thank you.
We are happy to have written it. I am so in awe of how rad you are. Literally, one of the people I can't pick a signature role. There's so many things you've done where I'm just like, thank God that was her. Like, you come on the screen, I'm like, oh, real person bringing real feelings. She's probably going to say something really deadpan that devastates. I'm really excited. Now, this is our Oscars episode, and I wanted to start by asking you, do you have a favorite moment of being at an award show just over the years you've been in entertainment? I can think of a couple times, like you were at the Emmys once with an ensemble of actresses who did a little bit once, if you had a favorite.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome, I gotta say. That was the year Amy Poehler, I was out to dinner with her, and she came up with this notion that we would do this pageant thing. And she had done, she'd obviously been to several of these before, and had done different bits with the nominees in her category, funny bits. But I think this one was pretty much topped them. It was the pageant one, and Melissa McCarthy was the winner. And we had arranged to have like a big bouquet of red roses and a tiara for her. And it was pretty awesome. Yeah. And Rob Lowe, presented it. And Sofia Vergara was kind of like, he was like the Bert Convy of, I don't know, who was that?
Bert Parks. Bert Parks, yes.
Bert Parks.
Yes.
Bert Parks. Thank you.
You can count on me to sort out showbiz Berts.
That year.
Yeah, right.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate you. We always need someone like you around. But yeah, that was pretty fun. That was pretty cool. I like that.
I'm watching you in The Regime, and your very first scene with Kate Winslet is so funny to me. Just mostly because you're both to set the scene for people listening. It is a very long table that you two are seated at, and then you're sort of like talking across the table at one another. I have to imagine, was that fun to do? Was that weird to try to have a conversation like that? Or with, the filming of it actually, did it feel, I guess, a little bit easier because you have the camera in front of you and you're not really shouting across the table at Kate Winslet the entire time?
No, we were that far from each other. And it was actually the very first scene on the very first day of filming that we did. So it was kind of like being shot out of a cannon, Yeah, I was very nervous. I had just closed a play the night before. I flew to Vienna, and then we started filming at 5 in the, you show up at 5 in the morning on a Monday. And I was very nervous but so was Kate, because it was her first day of school too, She's, of course, incredibly on top of it and just, really knows her stuff. And she's fantastic. I really loved it. But it had that sort of nervous energy, you know what I mean? Which I think it might have actually helped, the scene a little bit.
Also, Kate Winslet is somebody who, when she takes on a role, I actually don't know what she's going to bring to it. She has so many performances now that have nothing to do with each other. Like, this does not remind me of Mayor of Easttown at all. Were you at all?
That's probably a very good thing.
Yes, right, yeah. Nothing about this is saying the wah-wah to me.
Yeah.
Did you know what kind of performance she would be giving when you sat down with her? Like, how do you, clue each other in on what you're going to do?
Well, we'd had some rehearsal, which was good, and we'd done, a table read and stuff. We had, a huge table read with everybody in the whole cast for the whole series around a table, and it was kind of like CENTCOM. It was there were TV screens around and cameras everywhere because we were in the UK when we did it. So, you know, we had all the execs and everything remotely sort of tuned in to watch this crazy like marathon read-throughs. But so I did have some idea of how, you know, what this character was going to be like. But we did have rehearsal too, which was great. We had some rehearsal and so we kind of knew what the dynamic was going to be ahead of time. And I think it was just fantastic. I love that. I love what she did with that character.
You know, I have to ask about, I guess, you know, this, you said rehearsal element, which is a thing that is largely in sitcoms as well, and in theater as well. I was reading this interview with you from like 1996.
Oh God!
Doing research for this from Bomb Magazine. No, it was actually a really great interview, and honestly, I feel like so much has not changed about things that you would have had to have complained about in the industry since then, which is unfortunate.
Oh God, what did I say? You can't quote people. You can't, when someone is 53 years old, you can't quote them at 26. Or, you know what I mean?
That's fair.
Because everything a 26-year-old says is idiocy. So
noted.
I cannot take responsibility for what I said when I was 26. That was literally over half my life ago.
Yeah, there's only one part where you say that you do hate MTV and everything that it represents, which I can understand in 1996.
At least little did I know that they would stop playing videos.
Yes. Right. If
I had to go back now, I would say I loved MTV. It was the most innovative, entertaining thing on television.
I imagine that's when like Singled Out and The Grind were taking over and stuff. You're probably like, oh, we're getting away from the Elvis Costello videos or whatever we loved from the 80s.
Exactly.
But there's a moment where you're basically talking about, you know, your acting career, and you're talking about how you didn't really want to do bigger sort of commercialized movies in Hollywood because you would end up having to play the best friend role, you know, the I'm asking questions all the time. And then when I think about how a show like Raising Hope came along for you, you had the opportunity to be a lead role on a show and sort of have fun with that every week for years. And I just wonder, you know, like TV must have really sort of changed the game for how you felt your career was going to, you know, take place.
Well, I mean, certainly Greg Garcia did. I mean, you know, I've been doing mostly plays at that point, and he, you know, he gave me a really fantastic job that, you know, really did sort of change my life in a lot of ways. And, you know, I met one of my dearest friends on God's earth, Garrett Dillahunt, and, you know, I made some lifelong friendships during that show, and it completely changed the trajectory, at least financially, for me. I mean, I was a theater actor at that point for over 10 years, almost exclusively, except for the occasional, like, guest spot or whatever. You know, I was living hand to mouth largely. And so when Raising Hope happened, it just really, it made a lot of, I mean, I could finally pay my bills.
I also want to say that, like, obviously early in your career, you're known from that time first for The Goonies, but then all these other roles came along that I would say are some fabulous, prestigious roles. Did it at all feel afterwards like you were spoiled by being in such good, interesting projects with, by the way, almost exclusively amazing ensembles? I'm looking through every project you've done. It's like, I think you're like closer to every actor than Kevin Bacon is. Seriously.
We could come up with an alternate game like that. Although I'm not sure if it's quite true. I think Kevin's got a few more notches on his belt than I do in that regard. But I've been really fortunate, really lucky, and great ensembles and really nice, good people, you know, and good, interesting scripts. And, you know, But it's like all actors, who are jobbing, if they're lucky, jobbing actors, character actors, and you go where the work is, and you do what you you think is going to be the most fun.
Do you have a favorite ensemble that you've worked with that, like, maybe the dynamic continued years later, where you all still talk, etc.?
Oh, well, I mean, there are different situations. Like, I did a play in England a couple of years ago called Sweat, a Lynn Nottage play.
Oh, right.
I love that play.
Yeah.
Love that play.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful play. And we did it at the Donmar, and then we moved it into the West End. And those people are still extremely, very much a part of my life. And we're very good friends still. In fact, one of them would just drop by here yesterday. He went to the Oscars. Souley Remy, he was at the Oscars, and he was on his way to the airport, and he popped by, and we had a glass of wine before he got on the plane. It was really good to see him. But yeah, and The Coast of Utopia was another play that I did where I made I knew a lot of those people for many years before, but I made a lot of very friends that are very near and dear and close to my heart, including Kelly Overby, who she and I co-founded this charity together, A is For, and we still work together, pretty much all the time on that. So, yeah. And of course, Raising Hope. I mean, I hope that I get to work with Garrett Dillahunt and Greg Garcia for the rest of my life. I mean, whenever Greg calls, I'll be there. Whatever he wants, I'll do.
By the way, I do also have to say that I had the pleasure of seeing Coast of Utopia. Is right when I moved to New York. It's right when I moved to New York and was going to NYU, and I saw the entire series. By the way,
wow, that's fabulous! Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah. I wonder a bit about one of the great things of doing theater is that you do the show and then it's done. You can never really sort of revisit it unless it's something, like Company, which, has been filmed or something for Lincoln Center. Do you ever revisit some of your earlier film roles, or do you sort of prefer to leave everything in the past?
I don't have, film festival nights of my own movies. In fact, there's some of them I don't even watch just because I can't. I've just already done, Mm-hmm. So no, I'm not. I don't go and revisit them. I mean, that doesn't mean I don't love them or, it's just, although I was sort of curious. I haven't seen Parenthood in a really long time, like maybe since it came out. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of curious to see it again. It's tough for me to go back and watch things because I'm not obviously objective. I'm very, very hypercritical of my own performance, and I'm really like self-absorbed that way. It's just difficult for me not to pick up apart what I've done and go, ugh, Martha, why did you do that? And why, I generally don't like what I've done. I don't like my work very much.
It's interesting that you say that because when I watch your earliest roles, like, I'm so immediately grateful because there's such a grounded, intelligent sense where it's like we don't have many young stars where it just feels like they already had an adult-like quality, but it wasn't a precocious quality. It was just like they just felt like real people immediately. Like Christy McNichol felt a little bit like that to me, like maybe about 10 years before that. And
yeah,
it just felt like there's a quiet confidence about whatever you did. Did you feel confident on those early film sets?
Hell no. No. I did not feel confident at all. No, I was, no, I did not feel confident. And, especially on a movie like Parenthood, where like you're working with every other person you look at is your hero. You know what I mean? That movie was, I was very nervous during that movie. And Ron Howard could not have been nicer or sweeter or more dear and more lovely and more genuine a human being. But I don't know. I think, you're a teenager. I was a teenager. What did I know about anything? And of course, when you're in your late teens and early 20s, you think you know everything. Or, at least sometimes you do. But, I was not confident in all. I think maybe part of that might come from the fact that I was from New York rather than, Los Angeles or some other part of the country. So I had a little bit of an arrogance about me, an unearned arrogance that I think a lot of New York kids have. They sort of think, they carry themselves a little bit more, with a little more swagger, I suppose. I don't know.
When do you think that maybe self-assurance came into your roles where you sort of felt like the first time you sort of feel like I know what I'm doing on set? Thinking of you just even bringing up New York, I told Louis before we did this interview, I rewatched, watched for the first time, I Shot Andy Warhol, actually, which is very hard to find. It's on YouTube somewhere, and it's just watching Mary Harron's film and seeing, this is sort of like a prototype for American Psycho. I mean, Lily Taylor's giving so much of what Mary would bring into that later film. I think of you in that movie. When you're first on the screen, in Washington Square Park, and you're walking, you have to like flirt with this woman who walks by, and it was like, this just feels like Martha Plimpton. It felt like that's who you were immediately back then, and it sort of felt like, I knew who you were immediately in that, and even something like 200 Cigarettes, which is such a New York late 90s movie. I feel like during that period, did you feel like you were, I've got it, I know what I'm doing, and I'm like delivering Martha?
No. No, you're not, because I'm not delivering Martha. I'm delivering a character.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure if that expression existed in the early or late 90s, whatever the hell we got that movie. It's not really, it's lucky, it's fortunate, and I'm glad that that work has, sort of, stands up, over time. That's really good. And I'm really glad and proud of that. Although, I don't think about it too much, But I just think I don't know what it is, and I think it's what you're saying basically is you're complimenting me, and I'm really appreciative. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much, and I'm glad that it seemed that way, or glad that it still feels that way. That makes me happy.
You said also somewhat recently that movies basically don't interest you anymore. You really prefer the worlds of TV and theater, and I was wondering if that still holds true, if you find that TV and theater are maybe more satisfying to do ultimately nowadays.
Well, I don't think that it's that movies don't interest me. I mean, that would be a weird thing to say. I think it's the movies that I get, that I read, that are sent to me. Or maybe the fact that not very many are, and I'm bitter about it. Maybe it could be that, I mean, I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The couple of, the one or two independent films that I've made in the last, 25 years, have really meant a lot to me, and I really love them, and I really, and I really feel proud of them. But, and don't get me wrong, I would love to be in a Marvel movie. I would absolutely love it. But, they're not calling, So, I mean, so I go where the work is. And TV and film is, TV and theater is, largely where the work is for an actor of my, whatever it is, age, gender, whatever you want to call it.
I do want to say, though, by the way, and you were in that movie Mass last year, which if people haven't seen it, it's a quad of actors. My favorite kind of movie, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf type movie, where it's just everybody's squaring off in a quadrangle, and you and Ann Dowd are so fabulous in that movie, and it's one of those movies like the Denzel Washington Fences or something, where it's like a merging of both theater and film in a way that we so rarely get anymore. So I just think it's such a rare, cool movie, and I hope it was a gratifying experience.
Thank you. It was actually a really, really gratifying. I mean, I don't know if gratifying is even the right word. It was a real sort of spiritually and emotionally and creatively filling experience. And that movie, I'm incredibly in love with every single person who was in that movie and who made that movie, including the writer-director, Frank Kranz. I think it's a very, I mean, one hesitates to use words like this, but I think it's a very important film, and it's a small film, and it creeps up on you. I think a lot of people did say that it reminded them of a play, and I suppose one could sort of do that, but I think with film you can get much more inside a moment than you can in the theater. In the theater, I think, you things are shaped by so many scene, forces, like the picture is right there. And you're sort of sitting outside of it and observing, just to put it really simplistically. But I think for film, you can pause on a person's face once they've stopped speaking, or you can cut to another person's face when someone else is speaking. So you can get inside a moment much more, I suppose, dramatically or something than you can with a play. And I think that's one of the extraordinary achievements of that film, is that it's, as you say, it's just four people squaring off, two couples, in a room for an hour. And yet it has such momentum and such forward motion. It's almost like it's relentless. I'm really proud of that movie. Thank you for mentioning it.
Thank you for being here. And I have to lastly ask, which I ask every theater actor who comes here, you've played Hedda, you've done Glass Menagerie. I mean, you worked with Steppenwolf, for a few years too. Are there any roles in theater that you feel like have eluded you still, like one that you still are looking forward to hopefully playing at some point?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things I'd love to do. It's just, you imagine yourself doing them, but I don't know that there's any one, that, because I feel like when you name them, they become more elusive. You know what I mean? Because, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I want to do blah, 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 and then forget it. You'll never do it. It's just never going to happen. You said it, you put it out there, and it's reverse affirmative, whatever they call it.
Deformation. Yes.
Deformation.
It's deformation. Yeah, it's deformation. Exactly.
So start going around saying the roles you don't want, and then make sure then they'll never come to you.
Right. Exactly. But things come also that surprise you, that you'd never think that you would be able to do or want to or know how to do or whatever, and they come to you, and suddenly you're like, oh, I guess I will do this, and that's kind of really more fun to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not really having a plan is kind of more fun to me.
Well, thank you so much for being here. We are huge fans, and also you are just as rad to
Thank
talk
you.
to. I'm so thrilled you came here today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely chatting with you guys.
And we are back with our favorite segment of the episode. It's Keep It. During our episode recording, Beyoncé announced the title of Act 2. It is Cowboy Carter.
We should talk about Beyoncé announcing Cowboy
Oh my God, that's what it's called.
Oh my God.
Ah! Cowboy Carter. I love that woman.
Oh my God, it's so adorable. Cowboy Carter also feels like somebody who would be in my nephew's kindergarten class. Cowboy, come here. No snacks.
Cowboy Carter. Is that the sequel to Johnny Guitar?
Oh, your lips to God's ears. I'd love to see it. Johnny Guitar,
Yeah.
always a sleigh reference.
Well, we will obviously get into Act 2 when it does drop in, a couple weeks. Also, next week, we will get into Ariana Grande's album as well. I have a lot to say about it, but we obviously do not have time to discuss it this week. Just know, I love it.
Okay. Oh, you do? Okay.
I do. And 2, I was at Good Room last weekend where the Carrie Nation plays their party once a month, and DJ Nita, who is a Arianator, they were playing some tracks from the album, and it sounded great in like a club house music setting.
Yeah.
So I was not, it was very unexpected to hear like a track from the new album that night, and I think it sort of made me and everyone else there love the album like a bit more. So,
cool.
Yeah. But keep it. Lewis, what is yours this week?
Well, as a journalist, I went to the Madonna concert twice this week because I want to be sure I understood it. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of images going on.
You were steps from Kylie.
Yes. So I had a ticket for yesterday, Monday's show, but I abruptly on Thursday with my friend Jan Hatchwell, also a giant Madonna fan, find him on Twitter. We had heard Kylie was going to be there, as I think everybody in the room did. And so we were like, we don't even know what that means, what she could possibly do with Madonna. So we went. Let me just see. It's like, this is the tour you have to see because I don't think she's going to do a greatest hits thing like this again. I mean, just the sheer amount of like mega bangers. It's Vogue. It's Burning Up when she plays the guitar. She gets down to Don't Tell Me. Hung Up has a moment. Ray of Light is this explosive moment where she's flying through the air and she's dressed exactly like RuPaul during the episode where Monet Exchange fakes the splits. So she has the visor on and the shock white hair at that moment. Anyway, I liked the show the first time. The second time, I was seeing it from a different angle. I was on the other side of the auditorium. I actually liked it 3 times as much. I'm sorry to say that seating sort of matters because you miss certain images or you miss certain insane dancers. Of course, at the end, they all come out in different variations of Madonna throughout we've seen versions of that, like at the MTV Music Video or Video Music Awards, where the bunch of drag queens dressed up as Madonna personae. It was basically a version of that again, and it was cool to see.
Night of 1,000 Madonnas.
Yes, right, and that's not all of them. You know what I'm saying? Like it could be like 75,000. My keep it. The show opens before she goes on stage with just the radio single version of "Wanna Be Startin' Something" by Michael Jackson. First of all, you're Madonna. Just play a Madonna song or give us a new mix or something. Don't put on Sirius XM The Groove and play Wanna Be Startin' Something by Michael Jackson. And also, by the way, I think we all kind of think this ultimately. When you hear Michael Jackson in a public place, a part of you winces a little bit. Like, didn't we go through this and like learn like, all right, we have to like revise what we think of this part of history because it is ultimately disgusting and vile, and we just haven't resolved what to do with all of that legendary music, really. But to hear it like that, like it's going to kick off this night of Madonna music, felt strange. And then later, while she's changing outfits, this silhouette of 2 dancers dancing, and one is Michael Jackson and one is the silhouette of Madonna in the Like a Virgin attire. They do a little dance together as a montage of photos of them together cloud up the background. First of all, I know you only met twice. Absolutely know.
I was waiting for you to see this because the montage of photos, baby, there were 3.
Yeah. It's from that one Oscars where she sang Sooner or Later. She brought him as her date. And like, it's like when Jeremy Irons wins and stuff. But like, they weren't friends. And also, he repeatedly called her a witch. By the way, and of course, by the way,
no
Michael Jackson being mean or salty, unfortunately, always funny.
There's no personal photos. There's no Polaroids.
No.
There's no of them hanging out at dinner, hanging out at each other's homes. It's giving very give it up delicious.
Yeah, it's giving Getty Images. Yeah.
And to put that moment in the show, too, it's just so... What are we doing here, girl?
She's also, it's that thing again, which we've talked about time and time again with the Basquiat and all that, too enamored of having known famous men. It's like what she thinks legitimizes the fact that she's a legend. You know, she's like, did you know that I, hung out with Michael Jackson? Did you know that I dated Tupac, who comes up in the show? Did you know that Prince did the guitar thing on Like a Prayer? Whatever. It's like, I'm not saying those aren't important footnotes in her history, but that's exactly what they are, footnotes. Like, I don't need to be reacquainted with that right now. I don't know. To me, it's a little troubling.
Yeah. Anyway, was waiting for you to get to that.
Oh, yeah,
part
of course
the show.
you saw it before I did.
It was,
but yes,
yeah, it was the shadow dancers.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there high as hell on ketamine, by the way, and saying, is Michael Jackson here? Is he back from the dead?
Also, by the way, in that silhouetted footage, the Michael Jackson dancer, that to me looks like Michael Jackson dancing. Madonna in the Like a Virgin outfit is throwing ass. Like she's dancing like she's on Soul Train. I know that's not Jodie Watley in that dress. Excuse me? Yeah.
She was not doing that at Danceteria.
No,
I have to tell you that.
It was way too like, so you think you can dance athletic dancing, as opposed to that sort of freestyling at the club dancing we know she did at Danceteria.
And unfortunately, like, it's just with the shorter, like a virgin dressed Madonna silhouette and then the Michael Jackson silhouette, it was giving Big Bad Wolf, Little Red Riding Hood, and Into the Woods.
Yes, right. There was danger apparent. Yes.
Hello, little girl.
Oh my God. Other than that, the show is wonderful. Yes.
And I thought the girls were safe.
Jesus, Ira. Jesus. And I want to say, by the way, that when Kylie appeared, absolutely flawless. They did a extremely slow version of I Will Survive together, but it sounded good. And it must be said about Kylie Minogue, and I wouldn't say this about many other people who've had this long a career, she is absolutely better than ever. Like, see her now. She's got, of course, the giant catalog of hits, but she's also just got, her voice sounds so rich, her banter's so funny in I'll say classically Australian way. Definitely, she's just at the peak of what she does, and it was cool.
She's
to
happy
see
to
her.
be there.
Yes,
she's always. You see her on a red carpet too. Lately, she's just been really sort of like hitting the awards circuit. She was at the Oscars.
Yes, at the party afterwards.
The Vanity Fair. She
Yeah.
was at the Vanity Fair after party. She's just been everywhere lately, and she's been such a joy to watch.
Yeah, totally. And I love the outfit she wore. It was a toast to when Madonna tributed Kylie 20 years ago wearing a shirt that said Kylie Minogue. Kylie copied that outfit altogether with the words Madonna on her shirt. It was great to see. Ira, what is your keep it?
My keep it this week, we're going to have to talk about it again, baby. What is going on with the royal family?
No, okay, we will save a special segment for this, but just know, I am probably the last candidate to be embroiled in this thing. And finally, with this Photoshop business, where hands are coming out of nowhere and cuffs aren't matching up, and Kate herself's like, I tried to use the computer and I messed up, or whatever she said, is really mind-boggling.
This is so stupid. I'm sorry. It is. Last time we talked about it on the show, it was, where is this heifer?
Yeah.
She's been missing in action, and, we've been told that the Duchess was going to be taking an extended, sort of break to recover from a surgery or whatever. So we were expecting, like, she's going to be gone. They were like, we told people. But then people just sort of kept saying, where is she, though? Where is she? And the internet rumors were being fueled. And so they released a photo first. Last time we talked about it, there was a photo of someone sitting in a car in heavy sunglasses. And it was, baby, you took that crime scene photo of Caitlyn Jenner and tried to have us think that it was Kate driving that car.
It was giving Alien at the end of AI. I was like, what? Spielberg drinking this one up, or was this a Kubrick thing?
Okay, I was giving Dominique Morel or whoever was masquerading as Melania Trump for the last 2 years of the Trump presidency. But if that was not enough to sate the public interest, so they released a family photo of Kate and the children. This photo. First of all, it was very obvious that this photo was taken in about November or December and just held to be dropped later, which, by the way, I've done on Instagram before.
Sure.
Many celebrities have done it to hide weight loss or weight gain, etc. It's a thing that people do. But do not lie to us and say that this is a photo that was taken this week when you're in the midst of a where is this woman sort of mystery, you know?
Yeah, right,
it's like
right.
You can't do that when we've been wondering where she is. And then you also can't do it when the Photoshop in the photo is so horrible. It's so horrible that you have to pretend that Kate Middleton herself has Adobe Photoshop on her phone, that she has Facetune downloaded, and she's tweeting out, I've just been practicing with Photoshop a bit at home. Excuse me?
Practicing and just throwing it
Are
out
you
there?
fucking kidding me?
That is, it's such a weird situation. I'm just so surprised it was handled this way. Also, it's like some people were accusing this particular Photoshop of lifting a picture of her from the cover of Vogue magazine and putting it on this. Okay, now, I feel like Kate Middleton kind of always looks the same in pictures. Like, she makes the same smile. So I don't know that that's true. And
I didn't buy that.
Yeah, and I right, like, it would take a lot of changing the shadowing and lighting in order to make that possible, which doesn't seem right. But
there were TikToks that showed that they were actually wearing the same outfits from an event around November, and mostly some of those outfits were either the color was darkened or changed, etc., to make them look different. And some people, the royalists, tried to point out people aren't allowed to wear the same outfit again, and other people responded, many people do wear the same outfit again. Those people generally aren't royals. And two, when does an entire family rewear the same outfit that they wore on one specific day again?
You better be the Partridge Family, and you better be
Okay.
on a multicolored bus headed to the venue, because there's no other way you're all wearing the same outfits.
You better be about to say, let's get together, yeah. Okay? There better be some tambourines, and you better be getting off a bus.
Yes, right. The bell bottoms better be flaring. Yes. Shirley Jones, we speak your name. Best Supporting Actress, 1960.
It looks like the outfits from this specific day, and they're just coloring in things, darkening stuff. Also, you're telling me Kate is recovering from surgery and she's wearing tight jeans?
Yeah, that makes no sense either. Yeah, right, exactly.
I can't even wear jeans after, a dinner at Chechi's, okay? So
Rita Rudner? Whose stand-up is this?
I go to dinner with my sweatpants on.
Oh my God, I'm laughing. Take that on the road. Take that at the Ira Comedy Night.
I will also say that there's been some old tea bubbling up on TikTok too about the alleged affair,
Right.
That Prince William had with this woman named Rose Hanbury.
And name her title.
Yes, the Marchioness of Chernobyl.
It's the
No, it's Cholmondeley.
The Marchioness.
The Marchioness of Cholmondeley.
It sounds like if Elton John's trying to get a spot at a restaurant but doesn't want to give his name away. He's like, well, the Marchioness of Cholmondeley is coming.
Okay, she's a villain. You have to say her name backwards to defeat her.
Yeah, right. It seems like something they say is a spell on Wizards of Waverly Place.
It was very messy. The Independent by the way, to run a story. Who is the Marchioness of Cholmondeley on March 10th? Because they were being messy as hell, just running this to bring that tea back up. If you look at old TikToks from about like a couple years ago, there were rumors that Prince William was having an affair with Rose around the time Kate was pregnant with their third child. And there were other rumors that around that time, to quell those stories in the press, William and the royal family offered up Meghan Markle as a sacrificial lamb, because that is around the time that Meghan was pregnant too, and they started running all these stories about how she was touching her baby bump and how she was, like overdoing it and like just really sort of hammering Meghan in the press. There were also the other rumors then that that's when Harry had a falling out with his brother because, one, he was having an affair in the same way that their father did when he was involved with Diana, and also he felt that, the royal family was tarnishing Meghan to sort of prop up William and Kate. So that is, if you search William, Lady Rose on TikTok, you will find plenty of tea from years ago. So for the Independent to run this story about who is Lady Rose right now was them having a gag.
Yeah, right. But also, please don't go too far into these Reddit TikTok holes, because you simply will not come out. That will simply be the last of you. It just goes on and on and on. You can endlessly feed this need to really make the royal family interesting when they are often not. People are craving interestingness from the royal family, and so they will stop at nothing.
But damn, Lizzie was really holding this shit together.
Yeah.
She died, and all of a sudden it is World War III over there.
Yeah, right. No one's in charge. Everyone's got the keys.
It is giving,
to the Photoshop.
It is giving, who is the current Shakespeare who is going to be writing a play about sort of the downfall of the royal family currently?
I think this is
giving Lear. This is giving end of the Scottish play.
I think it's probably going to be William Shakespeare's Ryan Murphy. How about that?
He's actually alive.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's our show.
It ended up being a lot of show. Yeah. Thanks for sticking around. God, I hope I have things to contribute now that the Oscars are over. But God willing, Kate Middleton has plenty more sepia-toned Instagram goodness to throw at us.
Well, we won't be watching movies, but there's plenty of pop music.
Yes.
Literally coming out week to week. So
okay, great.
The girls are keeping us fed. Also, who is the new Madonna?
Okay, slow down. I'm done with that.
Did you see this post?
Oh, no. Cardi B, by the way, was at the show last night. Did I bring that up? She was fabulous looking and the perfect voguing guest. She was kicking around like all those girls were. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, I bring that up because we don't know who this pop star is, but if you go to the website, newmadonna.com, someone is teasing that they're the new Madonna and a new look and vibe is coming. And there are rumors that it's JoJo Siwa.
Okay, interesting thing to just claim. Nice girl. Seems like a nice girl. Okay, anyway, we'll see you next week.